Greetings, everyone. This is Rob Sanders with Simplilearn. Thank you for joining, and today we're going to cover content marketing, interview questions, and answers. So thanks for joining again, and here's how it's going to work. So if you have any questions to these questions or answers, feel free to just comment right below this video and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. We're going to go through a series of questions and I'm going to answer those questions for you. Starting out, what are the essential components of a good web content? Okay, so essential components. Okay, so what do we want our content to do? Well, we want it to be useful. So web content should be written in a way which caters to what the reader wants. Okay, so somebody's not going to read your content if it's not useful for them. Okay, this because it affects reader engagement. Okay, so if it's not interesting, it's not useful, somebody's just not going to read it. Plain and simple. It also has to be engaging. So listen, even if it is relevant to a user, you still have to write the content so it's engaging. So you want to add elements like imagery, videos. Hey, you could even turn your content into an infographic. Okay, you want to do something that's going to be engaging for the user. If it's engaging, they're going to read it and engage with the content. Okay, and then good content should have some call to action. So content must be written in a way that can drive call to action. Okay, so if you're writing a blog post, I've seen a lot of blog posts just simply start and end with good content, but it doesn't leave the user with anywhere to go. So have that call to action. Put some internal links in that content. Give somebody a place to go after they're done engaging with the good content that you write. Okay, so some other things to think about, some other components for good content. Well, credibility. So, anybody can write, but are you writing about something you know what you're writing about? Are you a good talking point, a good expert, or have experience about this content? So you also want to use, information from a legitimate source. Okay, so you don't want to grab something and use it in your content that's just not legitimate, because it does hurt your credibility and the organization's credibility. And then also originality. Write something that nobody else has written. So obviously you don't want to plagiarize, because if you plagiarize, and there are tools out there where people can easily just put their content in there to see what else is out there, see if somebody else has plagiarized it. So it's very easy to find people who plagiarize. So don't be that person. What I would recommend, create a good content calendar and come up with some ideas before you write them. Next question related to content marketing. So what are the types of content you can create? Well, there are a lot of things you can create. Start with the blog. Blog, to me, is always a great place to start. It's a blank canvas for your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions. Okay, that's a great thing about a blog. It accentuates personality. You can create a video. Videos are always engaging. You can create an infographic. Infographics to me are, a hidden gem. Instead of somebody reading the same old, you're laying this out in a very visual way that's easy to understand. Create a case study. Okay, so if you're digital marketing expert, done social media for another client, write about it. Show the successes, show that you are an expert, show that you've created successful campaigns in social in the form of a case study. You can create a white paper. White papers are good educational pieces. You can also create an ebook. Okay, ebook, hey, if you have a lot of content, you want to lay it out, an ebook's a good way to go. You have a lot of choices here when it comes to content, a lot of choices. Okay, so what are the advantages of having a content calendar? So I alluded to that just a couple of seconds ago. So let's really break this down here, because content calendars to me are so important. Well, first of all, calendar part of content calendar allows you to think about dates. So if you're planning something, you're going to have important dates in mind. Okay, so content calendar almost ensures you don't miss anything, that's a good opportunity for you to leverage, like, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's probably important when those days are if you're in e-commerce. So that's why having a content calendar helps. It helps you plan out your content based on important dates, or based on dates that work for what you're trying to do. They also help because you could stick to a consistent schedule. Okay, so if you don't have a content calendar, you're probably just arbitrarily writing content here and there. Well, what if your users crave and really engage with the content? They're going to want more. sticking to something consistent is going to really get people to come back for more. They know when you're going to post. They're going to be waiting for it. And if it's every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock, hey, post it Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock. Your users will get used to that schedule. And it does help build up your following. It does help build up your community. And in the end, cultivates a long-lasting relationship. And then having a content calendar also allows you to mix up your content. Okay, so you can see and plan ahead different types of content in different formats. That way it allows you to mix it up. Okay, whether it be a blog post, an infographic, a video about different topics. Okay, some other advantages here: saving time. It just allows you to prepare for the future. When you can prepare, you're efficient. And when you're efficient, you're not wasting time. And so to me, having a content calendar is a must, because a lot of us are busy. Who has time? And especially if you're going to work in a new company, so let's say writing content, you definitely want to have a content calendar, because you're going to want to use that time to efficiently plan. This is a new company you're going to start working at. You want to understand who this company is, what they've done in the past, what you haven't done, and what you want to do. Okay, so all of that helps you plan and prepare, and it saves you the time and effort and hassle down the road. And then at the end of the day, you want to be able to figure out what works. So planning your posts puts less strain on you and your team members, as well as company resources, because when you plan and you post, you're going to get data. And then when you get data, it's either going to work or not work. And if it doesn't work, then you know in the future you're not going to put that piece of content or that topic in the content calendar again. It's that simple. Okay, some other advantages: fresh content. Okay, so having a content calendar allows you to always keep content fresh. Again, you're going to be on a consistent schedule, and you're not going to be writing about the same things over and over again. So it could be just simply Twitter. If you're putting a content calendar and together for Twitter, well, you don't want to have the same tweets every other day. So it does ensure that you're getting tweets out there that are fresh, that are new, that are different. And again, figure out what works. A content calendar makes it easier to measure results and optimize performance. So you always want to, maybe put some metrics in with your content calendar, so you can see side by side content historically that has performed, content that has not performed. Okay, so next question you may get: what type of content works in each stage of the customer life cycle? So you have awareness, engagement, purchase, post-purchase, advocacy. Okay, so let's break these down here. So awareness. Okay, so you want people to understand who you are. Okay, that could be a guest blog, an influencer helping you out. It could be a cold email, a video that can potentially go viral, a social media post, introducing a product. You have engagement. So you want people to engage with your content. What are you going to do to get people to engage? Well, you could certainly write an email and have people open that email and go to your website. You can have an ebook where people can actually download and read it. Or you can have a blog where people can comment, or a landing page where they can fill out a form submission. You have evaluation. So with social media, we know there's a lot of engagement going on, but when you're putting content out there, you can certainly open it up to testimonials. Okay, you can generate white papers. Okay, or you can generate case studies. Case studies are a good way for companies to evaluate what you've done in the past. If you've worked for a specific product in the past and it's worked, you certainly want to put that out there for potential clients in that same industry. Purchase. Trying to get people to purchase, what are you going to do? Well, you can certainly have landing pages, a nice, website, a nice shopping cart with some nice content. Okay, onboarding emails. Get those emails out there and get people to go back to the website and purchase. Of course, you can have product and service details as well, meaning, one page downloadable PDFs that describe the product. Okay, you have post-purchase. Okay, so people who've already purchased, you can certainly send out follow-up emails. You can do blog roundups, give people an opportunity to see what features or updates are happening to the product. Okay, of course, case studies of repeat customers or content types that detail a new feature or service. Okay, so if somebody's already purchased, you may want to send them some content of another product that complements the product they bought. So a lot of things you can do to engage with your user who's already purchased. And then advocacy. You want people to help you out here. So have the user generate the content. You can have exclusive discounts for your community They're going to be your advocates, so give them exclusive discounts. And then pictures of customers engaging with your products. Okay, who's not going to share that? So you're going to have people share that information. In other words, you can generate content where, hey, people can help you out here and be your advocate. Okay, so how do you decide what topic and subject to write on? Okay, well, going back to the content calendar, that always helps you to see what you've put in that content calendar. But there are some other methods you can use. And you could certainly identify your target audience. And not only identify your target audience, but what their needs are. Okay, so you can write content based on audience. So you could certainly do some research with keywords. Okay, what's trending? What keywords are not trending? Okay, and write around what's trending, for example. Okay, you could certainly take a look at social media, for example, Quora. I always look at Quora. Quora is interesting, entertaining, informational. Hey, people are certainly having conversations on Quora. And you can certainly analyze those conversations because they certainly get in depth, and you can decide, hey, do I want to write a topic around something that really just won't go away in terms of conversing? Quora is a good example of analyzing conversations. They tend to be a little bit more in depth. So some other things you could do, you can look at your competitors and what kind of conversations are happening on your competitors' blogs or your competitors' social media platforms and pages. You can keep track of blogs and articles from subject matter experts, commentators, critics, and so on. Okay, so you can get ideas from them. Another question you may get, which is very important, if you're going to start working for a company, you need to understand the tone of your content, because that is going to fit and be in line with the company you're working for. Okay, so you're always going to have a brand personality. So the characteristics of a brand are the guidelines based on which the content strategy is developed. The tone of the content must align itself to the content strategy. Your audience profile. So you need to determine who your audience is. Okay, and how the brand wants to be seen by that audience. So, if you have an older audience, you're not going to use younger audience, i.e. street lingo or today's lingo and the younger generation. You're going to use language that's going to fit the audience you're talking to. And then, of course, the channel itself. So the content you create must be irrespective of the channel and consistent with brand attributes. Okay, so you gotta pick and choose the channel. If it's LinkedIn, for example, hey, LinkedIn's more business oriented. Okay, so you're not gonna be, as humorous as you would be, say, on Instagram or Facebook. All of these have one thing in common. Again, that's brand guidelines. You have to stay within the brand. What is the brand's personality? How do we want to talk to our audience? And what platform are we using to talk to our audience? How do you promote your content once it's live? Well, that's always a good question. Hey, you doing the work, putting in the hard work to create this, it could be a video, and videos take a long time. It could be an infographic, an ebook. Okay, so send it out via email. Okay, if you have an email list, send it out and let people know this content's there. Put a link in the email or even a piece or snippet or preview of the content in the email. So you're using the email to broadcast and encourage people to, if it's an ebook, get the rest of the ebook. Okay, you can certainly leverage social media to engage with your community. That's the best, just as good as email. Get out there and let people know, hey, I got my book published. Come and download it. You can give a discount to the first 100 people that download it. Okay, you can always promote your content via ads. So whether that be Google or Facebook, you always have an opportunity to be more prominent by advertising the content that you have to offer. So you can always reach out on social media, again, targeting interesting people directly. So you can always interact with people on social. Or you can write for others. Attract people from the web to important pages of your website by guest posting. So you can always go onto a popular blog post and write something and, link it up or have it be relevant to the content you've written. So next question, how can you determine how well your content is doing? Okay, very important. Again, you've done all the work. You've put the content calendar together. You got the content ready to go. It's published. You're promoting it. Social, email, guest blogging, but you want to determine how it's doing. Well, depends on the channel, really is what it comes down to. So if it's organic search, you want to be able to see if it's ranking for the keywords you optimize that content for. If it's social, you want to be able to see if you have engagement, shares, comments, etc. Of course, you can always look at analytics and see how much traffic that blog post is getting, or that page with the white paper is getting. Okay, so you can always look at your analytics and look at the traffic. Okay, and again, you can always look to see if there are conversions in the form of an inquiry or lead or sale. So at the end of the day, you want to align the content with the channel, and you want to align the KPI with the content in channel. Okay, so if it's social, you're not likely going to get conversions unless you're doing paid ads. If you're posting organically on social, then you're probably going to get some engagement. So you have to align the right metric with the right channel. What are the steps involved in the content marketing process? Okay, so you really need to decide what goal you want to achieve with the content marketing campaign. So that goes back to what I was just saying a minute ago. If you have content you post it on social, then what's the goal? What are you trying to achieve? Well, you're probably going to get engagement and likes. You need to define buyer personas to determine the audience best suited for your content. Okay, so you're always writing for an audience, and you're going to market that content for that audience. So you always got to keep that in mind. Okay, run content audits to determine the best type of content that can be used. In other words, how did it perform? What kind of engagement did you get with the infographic? Or did that video really perform well? Or do we want to use, a blog post next time around, or an image next time around? So continuing on here, you want to choose an appropriate content management system. Okay, so how are we managing all this content? Okay, is it WordPress or is it another platform? Okay, you could start brainstorming for ideas for new content. So again, that goes back to the content calendar. You leverage your content calendar to always create ideas for new content. Okay, then you want to settle on a particular type of content that you want to create. Okay, so once you come up and you're managing your content, you come up with some ideas, then you obviously want to choose the format, and then of course you want to publish and manage your content after it's all said and done. So these are the steps involved. Again, just quickly decide on the goal, the KPI, decide on your audience, look at what's worked and not worked in the past, get your content set up in the platform, okay, or get the platform ready to go, I should say. Okay, generate ideas with that content calendar, or ideally go to the content calendar for the ideas. Choose that type and then publish and manage. And when I say manage, I mean, again, going back to analytics or going back to the KPI that you align with that content to see if it's performing or not. Okay, so next question here. How do you target the right audience for your content? It's a very good question. You're not writing content for everyone. Let's be honest here. So you have to collect demographics of your target audience based on who's coming to your website, based on who subscribed to your emails, based on who's following you on social media. So in other words, you have people interacting with you, okay, in different channels, and you need to understand who these people are. So, do they fit a certain age range or generation? Are they skewed more female to male? Education level? What's their affinity or interest? Okay, do they have a certain income? So you need to really break down your audience here, and you could do that in analytics. You could do that on social. You can do that just by looking at your email list. Okay, all those will paint a picture as to who your audience is. If you have any questions, feel free to visit us at Simplilearn.com. I want to thank you for hanging in there, and good luck, and we'll see you on the next video.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.